Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Moving Forward with EZClaim Premier. This webinar is part 2 of our Getting Started with Premier series, and today we're going to be going over some of the additional areas of our program. If you're just starting out with Premier and have not seen part 1, I urge you to sign up or view the Getting Started webinar. You can view the recording or sign up on our website, EZClaim.com. And while I'm going through the demonstration here, please enter any questions that may come up into the question dialog box that's available on that Go To Webinar panel. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And understand that we can only answer program-related questions in this webinar. If you have specific issues you need help with, please call us or send an email to support@EZClaim.com. All right, I've gone ahead and showed my screen. You should be able to see Premier at this point. The first thing I'd like to show you is where you can find help and detailed information about the program. On the ribbon bar up top here, you will see the Help icon. Clicking it will take you out to the Help system. And here we can browse by topic or search for different keywords. At the end of our Getting Started webinar, we left off talking about downloading EDI reports. So that's where we're going to pick off in this webinar. Now that we have those reports in the program, we can show you how you can put them to use. So we're going to go into View EDI Reports. The reports I'll be using are TriZetto sample reports. If you're using a different clearinghouse or connecting to the payer directly, your reports may be slightly different, but they do work in the same way. There are 3 types of reports I'll be talking about: the 999 batch report, the 277 claim status reports, and lastly, the 835 remittance file. So let's start with our 999 batch status report. These reports are used to tell you if your batch was processed or rejected at the clearinghouse or at the front end of the payer. These shouldn't be confused with claim status reports. Just because the batch was accepted does not mean the claims were accepted. It just means that it's made it through the front door. Now, if we double-click and open our 999 report, the program parses the data, and it will show here on the screen. And as you can see, it's not real exciting information, although we can see our accepted verbiage here for the batch. But what happened when we opened this report? The program did some work and parsed the data and updated some statuses in the background. So I'm going to close this. And one of the things it did is it created a note on the 999 report here. We now have an accepted note with our submission number. And now the next report that you would look at is the 277 claim status report. Now, TriZetto offers this report in 2 formats. One is for us to read. The other is for the computer to read. So we're going to take a look at the human readable version first. As you can see, when you double click to open, it's showing us a list of claims and a summary if they were accepted or rejected. This report is fine if there are a few claims that were processed, but if you have hundreds of claims, it would be very time-consuming to print this out and go through each claim. That's where the computer version of this report comes in handy. And so let's look at the CSR report. If we double click to open, we get a quick summary of the number of claims that were updated with their status information. So in this particular file, we had 4 claims that were successfully imported. If that file had rejected claims on it, a rejection tab opens and displays the information. So instead of looking through pages of printouts, you have a nice consolidated list of claims you need to fix. From this window, so we're going to close this and actually look at the rejected claims here. So from this window, you can see the rejection reason and go to the claim by clicking on the line. So if we expand, we can see that we had a rejection because an accident date is required for these causes. So we can go back to the claim and fix those. Now if we look at our other rejection here, we can see that this one was rejected for a member ID number must be 9, 10, or 13 positions for this payer. So if we click on the claim, will take us right to it, and we can actually see our claim status message here at the bottom. And at this point, we can actually go in and fix the mistake. So we'll open up the insurance, fix their ID number, and save and close. Now, if you have a list here, a rejections list here that is long, or maybe you don't have enough time to fix or make any corrections, you can go ahead and assign them as tasks. So we're going to create a task for the second one here. And if you need to, you can move your GoToWebinar dialog box. I'm clicking some buttons up here in the upper right-hand corner of the program. And when we click on Create Task, it does open up this new task window. We pre-populate the subject line with what the task is in regards to. You can assign it to a staff member, add a few other parameters to it. You can even put in a note and click OK. And then now that we've assigned this rejected claim to somebody to follow up on. We'll go ahead and close this Rejections tab on. So as you can see, the claim status reports and the task system can really help you stay on top of your rejected claims. Once a task is created, you can see it over here in your task window. So that goes over the 999 and the 277 claim status reports. The last report that you would get from TriZetto is the 835 remittance file. It's often referred to as an ERA. This report contains payment and adjustment information so that you can auto-post it back to your claims, and this can save hours of time. So to start the process, once we receive the 830 file, we're going to double-click to open it. And even before that, you can see that we have a preview of the information. We have who the check was from, who it was assigned to, the amount, check date, method, and check reference number. Double-click our file. And so the program will make you choose the payer that it wants to match up to. There we go. So when auto-posting, it's very important to know what is actually being posted. While the payment information can be very straightforward, the adjustment information can be tricky. Premier makes this a simple process by summarizing the adjustment information in an easy-to-view grid shown on the bottom half of the page. By selecting one of the action items, apply, track, or ignore, I can choose how I want to handle a particular type of adjustment. So for reason code 45, I want to apply these adjustments since I won't be collecting any of that money. So we'll click on the Apply Radio button. But for reason code 181, which looks like it was a procedure code rejection, I only want to track that information. And tracking adjustments is a tool that can be used to show you the history of what has happened for a service line. And so what we can do, since it looks like this claim was rejected for the incorrect procedure code, is we can right-click and assign a task to this claim for somebody to follow up with, correct, and resubmit. So just like in the Rejection tab, we can create the new task, assign it a subject, assign it to a staff member, add any notes, and create the task. And for the patient responsibility reason code 2, we also recommend that this one is in a tracked column. Like I said, we're trying to show the history of what the insurance company has said about the claim. So now that we have all of our adjustments set to how we want, we can go ahead and click on the Apply Payments button. And while it does the posting, and when it's done, we now see the green board at the top. And this tells us that everything was posted the way that we wanted it to. Now let's see what happened during that posting. Let's open up a claim and take a look. So we'll open up our patient Carson here, and we can just go right to the claim by double-clicking on this line. And now if we look at the service line information, we can see what we had occur here. We can see that payments were applied and adjustments. So we have our Medicare $20 payment. We applied a $10 contractual 45 adjustment. And then we tracked the PR20 adjustment. And if you notice, it puts the note on there with how much the insurance said their coinsurance was, but it leaves it as a balance on the service line so that we could bill the patient down the road. And same on this service line, we see our Medicare payment, our contractual adjustment that was applied, as well as the tracked patient responsibility coinsurance. You can see your payment information also listed, the reference number. And we also have tracking notes here at the bottom where we can see where our payments were applied, the date, and by a user if you have users set up within the program. Now, before we go back to the auto posting window, I want to remind you that auto posting can be a significant time saver. And if you're not doing so already, we would highly recommend using the auto post features of the program. And auto posting is a big topic. We just covered the basics here. So for more in-depth information, please refer to the online manual within the help topics. And we also have an auto posting webinar that is available on our website. We'll close our EDI reports. So sticking within our payment topic, you may find yourself still needing to manually post a payment, either from a payer or patient. And you can do so within Premier through the Enter Payment window. The payment entry window here is used when you need to, we have our payment entry window here. And the other way to apply a payment is you can go right to a service line if you have a single payment to enter. So not a bulk check. If we had received a $50 payment for this claim, we can open the claim. We can click in our paid box. We get a payment window that opens up, enter in our amount, our date, any other information. And we can apply it here. Let me actually redo that one, make it a $10 payment, and say yes. The payment was created and dispersed, and we can see the difference here in the balance. And if you have a bulk check to enter, we actually recommend using the Enter Payment window. You would start by selecting the payer that you received the check from. And the program will list all of the corresponding service lines that are due money from that payer. Put your check amount up here at the top. Enter our payment date, any methods, reference number, and so to apply, we can simply come down here and enter in how much we want each amount was applied to. We can enter in any adjustments at this point too under our adjustment column here. So we're gonna, our EOB that we're referring to had a $10 adjustment. Enter in our reason codes. As you can see, we've brought this claim balance down to 0. We've applied $40 of a $400 check with $360 remaining. And once we've applied all that we want to apply, we can hit save. And the program will even remember that we have a remaining balance here to continue to disperse. So now that we have data in the program, we can run reports on this data. I'm going to close down our payment screen. And we have a Reports tab that's available in Premier over here on our left-hand side. And we're not going to go over each report in detail in this webinar, but I do want to show you some of the different styles of criteria selectors for the reports and how to use them. So I just clicked on our Report tab over here on our left-hand side. And in my example today, I'm going to use our Patient Services report. So each report has a print or a preview button that is available. And report criteria that you can select is located on the bottom half under the Report Criteria tab. So I'm going to preview this report without selecting any criteria. The report will open up in a new tab. Displaying your data in which you can print or export the data from here. One really cool feature about these reports is that they are dynamic, and you can actually open the patient or the claim right from the report. So just by double-clicking on Patient Brooks here, it'll take me to their patient record. And if we wanted to go to a claim, click on the claim, take you right to it. Now let's use some of the report criteria options to see how we can change this patient services report. Many of the reports have a group by option that is available in the criteria, and this is used to subtotal by a particular field. So with this report, we can group by primary payer, rendering provider, facility, etc. So we're going to group by claim rendering provider. And let's preview this report again. And so now we've got a grouping line and subtotals that are bolded here within the report. Now, looking at some of the other options, we can even hide some of the detail. So let's hide some of the service line detail. And now we've just got it down to just patient totals. And now we can get a little more of a summary report by rendering provider if we take it one step further and hide the patient detail by check marking the option. And let's preview. And let's also change our grouping here and group it by service date, month, and year. Now we have it broken out by patient services, down by date. As you can see, just with this one report, we're able to select numerous different options and run it in many ways. With this one report, we could probably run it a dozen or maybe even 24 different ways. So along with the group by and hide features, there's also criteria selectors for date ranges, procedure codes, balances on the claim, as well as payer and patient criteria. All the reports use similar criteria selectors, and our help file contains descriptions of each report if you would like to learn more detailed information about each one. So next I would like to actually go into patient statements. Close down some of our tabs. So once the claims have been submitted and the insurance payers have made their payment, if there's any remaining balance, it comes down to the patient responsibility, and the program will generate a patient statement. Now, statements are used to bill patients for their portion of the claim, and this could be because they owe from copays, deductibles, or simply because they are a self-pay customer and you aren't billing insurance. So we'll click on the Patient Statements button to see a list of patients that owe us money. Now, if you send a lot of statements, we recommend utilizing an electronic statement feature. We partner with BillFlash and TriZetto for electronic statements. They will either print the statements and mail them for you or send them to the patient electronically. There is a BillFlash handout available on the right side of your screen in the webinar dialog box, and this will show features and pricing for BillFlash. They also provide credit card services that allow the patients to pay their statements online and allow you to take credit card payments directly into the program. For this demo, we're going to stick to just a paper statement. And on our statement tab here in the program, we're going to check mark our patient Brooks here, and let's preview the statement. And just take a second to open up. And here is our statement. You can have your code descriptions in here, balances, aging, and you can even put in custom messages, either global messages or patient messages. And if we tell this statement to print, we get a dialog box that asks if the patient statement was printed successfully. And if it was, the program will add a note to the patient's record. And so if we go into Patient Brooks, there we go, we'll jump back to it. If we scroll down on the claim, on the patient notes, we can see that there has been a statement printed note listing the balance for each of the patient and the insurance at the time of printing. We'll close this record. And you'll also notice that patient Brooks was removed from our list here because the program tracks statement cycles. It's currently set to only send statements every 30 days. If Brooks had not paid their bill within 30 days, their name would reappear on the list here. And we can change the statement cycle from the drop-down on the right. We'll change it to 0 and click refresh, which will cause Brooks here to repopulate on our list in case we wanted to reprint the statement for any reason. And again, I've just touched on some of the highlights here of patient statements. There is more detailed information in our help file. One of the last features I want to talk about is Premier's grid technology. It's one of the main reasons that Premier is so powerful and customizable for all of our users. Many of the grid features that I'll talk about can be applied to any grid within the program, and we use grids all throughout the program, from our patient tab down to the claims tab, to our widgets, our find fields, and even our patient statements and libraries are even in grids. Now, almost all grids will remember their settings. So once you've made a change, the next time you open a grid, your changes will remain. And I'm going to use our Find Services grid to demonstrate some of these features. So our standard grid, when it opens up, has 4 areas that it's divided up into. Up at the very top here is what we call our group by area. Down at the bottom, we have our footer, which can show totals. Back up to the top, we have our filter row. And just above our filter row are the column headings. So starting up at the group by box, you can use this area to subtotal. So if I pull in our primary payer column, I now have all of our services grouped by the insurance carrier, the insurance payer. We can even subgroup by procedure code, and so on and so forth. And we can restore our grid to undo that. And we can even hide the grouping box here to save on space if you have a smaller monitor. Now down at the bottom is our footer. This can actually be hidden as well to save space. Now back at the top is our filter row. This sits between the column headings and the rows of data, and entering information into this field will filter your data. So in our procedure code column, if I enter 90834, the program will filter and just find services with that code. We can use the icon that's located on each column and filter by data. Columns can be added, columns can be removed. So we can add in account number, claim ID. We can remove columns, and we can move them left or right. So if we wanted to move our balance column, maybe over here, we can do some. And it's a simple right click of the mouse to get to the column chooser to add in a column. And there's an advanced filter editor that you can access with a right click that'll allow for some multi-level filtering if needed. Now, sorting is easy as clicking on the column heading. And last but not least, if you really mess up your grid, there is a full restore. Actually, let me put in some filters in here. You can always clear any filters and restore your grid back to the factory settings. Now, this applies in our Find services. You can also apply these features to your patient grids over here with sorting and filtering. And anywhere else in the program where you see your grid features. So this concludes our moving forward webinar. But before I move on to answering any questions, I want to say thank you to everyone for